Get to 7 secret budgeting rules financial advisors expose to trust fund kids. My friend's wealth manager accidentally CC'd me on an email meant for his elite clients, and I've been sitting on this information for 3 months trying to figure out how to share it without getting anyone in trouble. Here's what made me finally do it. The email contained 7 budgeting rules that his firm only teaches to clients with a minimum net worth of $5 million. And when I compared them to the budgeting advice you and I get from mainstream finance content, it's not just different. It's the complete opposite. The wealthy aren't playing the same game. They're playing a different sport entirely. What you're about to hear took me down a rabbit hole. I started reaching out to former private wealth advisors, trust fund recipients who were willing to talk anonymously, and even a retired financial planner who spent 22 years managing money for old money families in Connecticut. The picture that emerged? It made me angry. Because rule number 4, the one about how the wealthy actually think about debt, completely contradicts everything Dave Ramsey ever told you. And rule number 6? It's going to make you rethink every single budget template you've ever downloaded. But the one that really broke my brain was the final rule. It explains why wealthy families stay wealthy across generations while the rest of us start over from zero every time. That one hits different when you're in your 20s trying to build something from nothing. Let's get into it. The first rule in that email was labeled the 15-35-50 allocation, and when I first read it, I thought it was a typo. You know the 50-30-20 rule everyone teaches? 50% needs, 30% wants, 20% savings? The wealthy flip it completely upside down. Their version, 15% lifestyle, 35% wealth building, 50% what they call opportunity reserves. I talked to Marcus, a former advisor at a boutique wealth management firm in Manhattan. He told me that when he started, he couldn't understand why his ultra-wealthy clients lived so far below their means. He had one client, a trust fund kid, who inherited $4.2 million at 25, who drove a 2016 Honda Civic and split a 2-bedroom apartment with a roommate. Marcus asked him about it once. The response? My grandfather taught me that the first million is a seed. You don't eat your seeds. Here's the practical translation. If you make $4,000 a month, mainstream advice says spend $2,000 on needs. The wealthy would say spend $600. Everything else goes into building or waiting. Waiting for what? That's where the opportunity reserve comes in. And it connects directly to rule number 3, which completely changed how I think about emergency funds. But first, you need to understand how the wealthy think about percentages versus everyone else. Rule number 2 was called percentage floors, not percentage ceilings. When most people budget, they think, I should try to save 20%. That's a ceiling. It's the maximum they hope to hit. Wealthy families teach their kids the exact opposite. 20% is the floor. It's the minimum before you're even allowed to discuss discretionary spending. One trust fund recipient I spoke with, she asked me to call her Sarah, said her family had a rule growing up. You prove you can save 40% of any income for 12 consecutive months before you get access to more capital. She was 16, working part-time at a boutique making $11 an hour, banking 40% of every check into an index fund her dad helped her set up. By the time she was 23 and received her first trust distribution of $75,000, saving aggressively wasn't willpower. It was automatic. It was identity. Here's what hit me. She said, my friends think discipline is the answer, but discipline runs out. Systems don't. So I asked her, what's the system? She said every dollar has to pass through 3 questions before it gets spent. First, does this purchase exist in my 15% lifestyle allocation? Second, If I invested this money instead and it grew at 7% annually, what would it become in 20 years? And third, this one stuck with me. Will I remember this purchase in 90 days? That third question alone has probably saved me $800 in the last 3 months. Rule number 3 was titled, Emergency Funds Are Amateur Hour, and honestly, it felt like a personal attack. Every finance creator, myself included, has told you to build a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. The wealthy think that's cute. Their term for it? A stability account. But the difference isn't just semantic. An emergency fund is designed to cover disasters. A stability account is designed to create options. The email explained it like this. Emergency funds keep you from falling. Stability accounts let you jump. A former wealth advisor named Daniel broke it down for me. He said his wealthiest clients never had 3 months of expenses saved. They had 3 years. Not because they were paranoid, but because that runway gave them power in every negotiation, every job decision, every investment opportunity. Think about that. When you have 3 years of expenses sitting in high-yield savings and money market accounts, you can walk away from a bad job. You can wait for the right real estate deal. You can say no to clients who disrespect you. You can take 6 months to build something on the side. Daniel said the first conversation he had with every trust fund kid was this. We're not building a safety net. We're building a launch pad. For most of us, that means reframing the goal entirely. Not save 3 months, but save 18 months, then 24, then 36. It takes longer, but the person you become at 36 months of runway thinks completely differently than the person scraping by at 3 months. If you want more insights like this, the stuff that never makes it into mainstream finance content, hit subscribe. I'm releasing one of these every single day because honestly, this information shouldn't be locked behind minimum net worth requirements. Also, I've been using AI voice tools to help me research and script these videos faster. If you're creating content or building a side business, check out 11 Labs. I dropped a link in the description. It's been a game changer for my workflow. Rule number 4 completely contradicts mainstream advice, and I need you to hear me out before you react. The wealthy don't avoid debt. They categorize it. The email broke debt into 3 tiers. Tier 1, wealth building debt. Mortgages on appreciating properties, business loans with clear ROI, education that directly increases earning power. Tier 2, neutral debt. 0% financing on necessary purchases, strategic credit card use for points and cash back. Tier 3, wealth-destroying debt. Credit cards carrying balances, car loans on depreciating vehicles, lifestyle debt. Wealthy families teach their kids to aggressively pursue Tier 1 debt while completely eliminating Tier 3. The goal isn't debt-free. The goal is strategic leverage. Here's what you can do today. List every debt you have and categorize it honestly. For Tier 3 debts, create a payoff timeline. For Tier 1 debts, stop feeling guilty about them. That mortgage isn't a burden, it's a tool. Rule number 5 is the one that made me most uncomfortable because it goes against everything I believed about budgeting. The wealthy don't budget for expenses. They budget for income. Let me explain. When you and I create a budget, we start with our paycheck and figure out how to divide it. The wealthy start with a target income and figure out how to reach it. One advisor told me about a 28-year-old who inherited access to $200,000 annually from a family trust. Instead of budgeting around that number, she sat down with her team and said, I want my earned income to match this within 5 years. She didn't track her spending obsessively. She tracked her income-generating activities obsessively. How many hours spent on her consulting business? How many clients contacted? How much reinvested into skills? Within 4 years, her earned income hit $185,000. She treats the trust income as bonus money now. The mindset shift? Stop asking, how do I spend less? Start asking, Sama, how do I earn more? One question keeps you small. The other forces you to grow. This connects back to what I mentioned about lifestyle percentages. When your income grows but your lifestyle stays at 15%, the gap between what you make and what you spend becomes your wealth accelerator. Rules 6 and 7 go together, and they're the reason wealthy families stay wealthy. Rule 6: never budget in isolation. Wealthy families don't have individual budgets. They have household financial strategies. Even before trust fund kids have spouses, they're taught to think in terms of financial partnerships. Who are the 3 to 5 people in your financial circle? What are your combined goals? How can you leverage together? This is why wealthy friend groups stay wealthy. They're not just hanging out. They're sharing deal flow, splitting investment research, and holding each other accountable to income goals. They treat friendships like informal financial alliances. Rule 7 was the one that the advisor called the generational secret, and I finally understand what he meant. Wealthy families don't budget annually. They budget across generations. The email contained a concept called it the 100-year plan. Every financial decision gets evaluated not just for its 5-year impact, but for its impact on children and grandchildren who don't exist yet. This is why wealthy families buy real estate instead of renting, even when renting is cheaper short-term. This is why they start education funds before their kids are born. This is why they think in terms of family offices instead of individual accounts. For those of us without generational wealth, the translation is this: start thinking beyond yourself right now. Even if you're 23 and single, make decisions as if you're building a foundation for people you'll never meet. Remember that email I wasn't supposed to see? The closing line said something that's been echoing in my head for months. The difference between the wealthy and everyone else